Eric Bolling. Welcome to a special edition of Money Rocks Corruptocrat Nation. Tonight, we're exposing the towns across America where greedy local leaders get rich off the taxpayers' backs. Birmingham, Alabama, where at least 21 former contractors and former county officials were rounded up in a huge contract rigging scheme over a new multi-billion-dollar sewer system. New York, where two cops committed murder and still collect their city pensions, and probably the biggest ripoff of all, the municipal bond market, the supposedly safe refuge, is riddled with fraud, kickbacks, and corruption. If we clean this system, this tide of municipal greed, it would be like a massive tax cut for all Americans. Coming up, we have our all-star panel to sort it out. But first, joining me now for a look at just how widespread this corruption is and how it's affecting you are from Washington, D.C., Tom Schatz. He's the president of Citizens Against Government Waste. And here in New York, Tom Borelli, senior fellow and Free Enterprise Project co-director for the National Center for Public Policy Research. Tom Schatz, let me start with you, sir. You know, corruption, we've been calling out corruptocrats for the last 2 weeks or so, and people keep emailing us, hey, check us out, check this out. How big and widespread is the corruption in America?
It's huge, and it's great that your show is focusing on something that taxpayers really understand. When an elected official takes money that benefits themselves directly, it's one of the worst forms of wasteful spending because it does have an impact on their overall budget. Now, people expect that programs will be wasteful, but when they see people getting $800,000 salaries or rigging a bidding scheme for a sewer system, they just get even more outraged. They're lucky to have jobs, let alone get these massive raises that a lot of these elected officials have been getting.
And Tom Borelli, it's not just the bid rigging, it's pensions, it's really widespread, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's why the best government is limited government, and that's why you have thousands of Tea Party activists in the street, because they know their taxes are going up, they're not getting the services, and they see massive corruption. This is why the people are outraged.
Tom Schatz, Tom Borelli points out a very good point. The corruption, really what it does is it just raises everyone's taxes, right?
Absolutely. The money is going into the pockets of the elected officials. Every municipality, every state, the federal government, they're all in financial trouble. So that means money is not going to programs that may or may not be helpful, but it's not going where it's supposed to go. And in terms of being widespread, Citizens Against Government Waste has been doing state piglet books since 2002. One of the first ones we did was in Oregon. In that state, 10,000 jobs lost in the private sector in 2001. And what did the state do? They hired 1,000 people in the government to make up for whatever they thought was going on. I mean, people see that more jobs being created, even after this quote-unquote stimulus, in the public sector. They get paid better, they get better pensions, and 3 million jobs lost in the private sector.
Exactly. And Tom Borelli, we're not just talking about pork and wasteful spending, because in a lot of cases that's legal. I mean, you may not like it, but that's legal. We're trying to pinpoint corruption, people who are willing to betray the public's trust to line their own pockets, right?
Oh, absolutely. People are taking shortcuts because there's a lot of money available. And now we have to wonder why Obama's economic stimulus plan isn't working. Remember, a lot of the money, vast majority of the money went to state and local governments. So they're just basically throwing fuel on this corruption fire. Now we know unemployment is not where it should be.
And Tom Borelli, were you surprised when look, we broke the Bell, California story. We found out about these three corrupt, let's put it this way, alleged corruption going on in Bell, California. We brought it out, and there's been a public outcry saying, hey, this is happening not only in Bell, California, other California towns, Illinois, Cicero, Chicago, everywhere.
Oh, yeah, it's the tip of the iceberg. If you're finding it there, it's going to be everywhere. And the more money we throw at state governments, the more money it's going to be misspent. That's why we, the people, have to take charge.
And Tom Schatz, did this Bell, California story just shine the light on corruption going on everywhere? And by the way, will it stop there? Where does this end?
It's interesting. Congress and some of the states have set limits on private sector pay, of course, through the TARP. They said, oh, bankers can only make a certain amount of money. People don't necessarily mind in the private sector if people are getting paid a lot of money, because if the company goes broke, they don't get paid. All right, but there are very few limits in the public sector. And when Bell, California can pay someone $800,000 a
It's
year.
crazy. Tom and Tom, hang in there. Hang in there. We're going to
Crazy.
bring in today's panel. We have Betsy McCoy, former New York Lieutenant Governor, Fox News contributor Ellis Hennigan, Bo Dietl, founder and chairman of Bo Dietl and Associates, and Liberal radio host Leslie Marshall. I'm going to go to you, Betsy. You were chomping at the bit. You wanted to jump in.
Well, because the corruption starts at the top. When I was in Albany, I saw it. That legislature is virtually a den of thieves.
Put it down a little bit for us. So it's not only big picture feds, congresspeople, and senators. This is small town city managers stealing the public's money.
When this stuff gets out of hand, we catch it and we slam
we
it
don't
down.
have
We've
any of
done a
those
bad
systems.
job
We
on
don't
that.
have a system. We have a
We've done a bad
system
job
that
on that.
exempts politicians from the same accountability that you and I would face if we broke the law. Bo, if you were guilty of tax evasion, you wouldn't be facing an ethics committee. You'd be
We have
going
the
to
whole
jail.
hour, you guys. We have the whole hour. I want to do this. One city caught our eye. Everyone stay here. Was Birmingham, Alabama, where County Commissioner Gary White was just sentenced to 10 years in prison. Joining us now over the phone with details of his case is John Archibald from Birmingham News. He's a Metro columnist. Sir, give us the latest. This guy's going to jail for 10 years for what?
For 10 years for accepting bribes and white envelopes from a sewer contractor.
And he wasn't the only one, right, John?
Now, he's actually the 6th former county commissioner to be sentenced, and the last of that batch, along with, you said 21, there's actually 24 others that have been convicted.
I'm looking at I'm looking at conviction for bribery, conspiracy on Mr. White's case. Mary Buckaloo, obstruction of justice. Larry Langford, bribery, 15 years. These people are going away for a long time. But how did it get to the point where there were 24 people, I don't know, bid rigging? I guess giving away jobs for paybacks, kickbacks, right?
Well, it's been all manner. It's been bribery. They've gotten clothes, handbags, cash, kickbacks, contracts, you name it. Bottom line is that the federal government gave them a mandate to clean up their sewer, and $1 billion estimate all of a sudden became a blank check, and it became a $4 billion project, and filled with indictments and corruption.
All right, John, hold on. Go ahead, Bo. How did they catch these people? How did these people get caught?
You know
what do you think of this?
I hate to say it, but you know, when that corruption is so infested down there, it's a way of doing business. When you become a politician, that's part of your income, and that's how it's been accepted.
Here's my problem.
Hey, I'm
Here's
from
my problem.
Louisiana, you
No
know.
one heard this story before. Someone tapped me on the shoulder over the weekend and said, hey, you should look into this. It's big, and no one talked about it. Go ahead, Nancy. You want to weigh in?
Look, I
Go
don't
ahead,
weigh
Betsy.
in because the fact is, it's getting worse every year. We've all heard stories of political corruption, but I look at New York State where so many former members of the state legislature are doing hard time in prison, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And the fact is that one reason is we don't have term limits. And the longer that these politicians are in office, the more immune they behave. Their hubris increases, and they violate one law after another. We need term limits for greater accountability.
Leslie Marshall, my mistake. I'm sorry about it. Go ahead, Leslie.
Oh, no problem, Eric. Gee, Eric, forgot me already. And we do have term limits. It's called our vote, and that's one of the problems. Americans on a local and a federal level, the majority of us don't vote, although I do, and many don't educate themselves. 1, 2, I agree with Ellis, and 3, who's minding the store and who's monitoring? Where is Big Brother watching this?
Well, how can
and now
Leslie,
we're
how
seeing
can you
people
watch
being
everything?
caught, but this has been happening for years.
Leslie, so you're suggesting more regulation? Is that what you're suggesting here?
Well, obviously, how many decades has this gone on
That's
for?
why we
Whether
need
it's in
smaller
Bell,
government.
California, Birmingham, Alabama. No, what we need, I disagree. I don't think we can just generalize like that.
We just need to
What we
throw
need
more
are
money
people
at the problem.
educating
That's
themselves
ridiculous.
and using their power of their vote to enforce term limits without having to
Hey,
draft
hold on, guys.
legislation with
Everyone
term
wants to
limits
jump
as
in.
the
Go
umbrella.
ahead, Tom Borelli. That's what we need, small
I mean,
government, right?
We need limited government. We keep throwing money at the problem, and they keep wasting it and looting them taxpayers of their money. Look at Obamacare. He should have started with reform, not throwing money at the problem. Look at the waste, fraud, and abuse we have in Medicare and Medicaid, and what's he doing? Throwing more money at it.
Ellis,
Yeah,
what
but
about it?
yeah, you know, Tom,